Today's the 1987 canon film Masters of the Universe. Skeletor has captured Castle Grayskull and with it all of Eternia. Yet there is resistance. He-Man and his friends Teela and Man-at-Arms rescue a dwarf-type guy from Skeletor's men. The dwarf is named Gwildor, and he has made a cosmic key which can open portals in time and space. This is how Skeletor won. They go to Grayskull to rescue the sorceress, but are ambushed. They have to use the key to escape. Then they land on Earth, and the cosmic key is found by two teenagers, Julie and Kevin. Kevin thinks it is some kind of music synthesizer from Japan. Skeletor tracks the key and sends his mercenaries. They end up at the local school and He-Man rescues Julie. He-Man and his friends manage to track the key to the music store, just in time for Skeletor's forces to attack. They manage to capture the key and He-Man. The others are left behind with a damaged key and no hope of getting to He-Man. But Kevin, being a musician, remembers the notes to activate the key. They end up back on Eternia and rescue He-Man. He-Man recovers the Sword of Grayskull and defeats Skeletor, thus saving the universe. Julie and Kevin get transported back to Earth just before Julie's parents are killed in a plane crash, and everything ends on a happy note. Except, of course, Skeletor, who's going to be back. I get a warm feeling every time I see that Canon logo come on. So this is a 1987 film that did the popular toy line and animated series from the 80s, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It actually was pretty much a critical and financial failure at the time. It had a budget of $22 million, but only made $17 million. It's actually one of those films that actually kind of bankrupt canon. And, it's obviously, Langella, Frank Langella did it basically because his son loved the toy line and that he jumped right at it. And he actually considered this one of his favorite characters he played. While conversely, Dolph Lundgren thinks it's his least favorite, even though this was his first starring role in a movie after Rocky IV. And, this film obviously had a lot of budgetary problems going on. But yet, it's a fun movie, I think. It's, what can I say? As Courtney Cox before Friends. And there's a guy from Star Trek Voyager was in it. And it sounds like, from interviews and that everybody on this film had a lot of fun time. And I think that comes through in the show. And, it's a fun, cheesy movie. Now, I'm not a, He-Man fan. I was just a little too old for the toys and cartoons. So, speaking not from a fan, but just a fan of, cheesy canon movies of the 80s, I think this is one of their great ones. I love this movie. It's fun. It, has a lot of action. And, it's interesting enough that canon did want to do another sequel, even though this was a failure. And it was going to be a much more modest budget one of $4.5 million. And they got the late, great Albert Pyun to do it, who can do anything on the cheap. But, of course, they couldn't, and they're going to have, pretty much unknowns. They're going to have some kind of surfer dude as He-Man. And it was going to involve, Skeletor going back to Earth and possessing some body of an industrialist. And He-Man had to go back and masquerade as a quarterback. And, it just sounds gloriously fun. Of course, at this time, Canon was in a real downward spiral and couldn't even afford the licensing fee from Mattel. And so all the like sets and costumes were recycled for Albert Pyun's movie Cyborg, which is another great film that I'll do someday. And this is like I said, it's a fun movie. I think if you like just fun action movies that you turn your brain off and watch, you'll enjoy this one. And thanks for if you stick with me this long. Thanks a lot. You're a unique individual.